It's episode 11 of Two-Way Takes. We got a special interview with PGA president Suzy Whaley, a lifetime, long accomplished golfer, a little bit of everything in the world of sports. I love the fall, man. Welcome to Two-Way Takes. Welcome, everybody, to Two-Way Takes, episode number 11, coming to you guys live here. Very excited. Big week in the world of sports. Big week. We had week one of the NFL in action, some Champions League kicking off. We're gearing up for the Ryder Cup in the world of golf, which we're going to discuss a little later. Excellent week. I cannot emphasize this enough, I love the fall, September, October. Absolute best time. If you're a sports nut like I am, absolute best time. Football in full swing. Basketball is right on the horizon with training camp preseason, just getting ready to go. You got stuff like the Ryder Cup coming up. Hockey season's right around the corner. You got playoff baseball, which is some of the best baseball, probably the only baseball I'll watch, to be honest with you. Champions League soccer. Oh, man, just get very excited. So we got a great episode lined up for you guys today. Obviously, the highlight is going to be the big interview with Suzy Whaley. She is the former president of the PGA, a lifelong pro golfer and avid athlete. So really great discussion, sitting down with her, talking everything in the world of golf, talking about her story. We touched on the Ryder Cup a little bit. She is really raring to go to pull for Team USA. So we got producer Mitch behind the decks today, but we screwed the pooch a little bit on his webcam, had a little accidente, so he is without a mic, without a camera. So Mitch, yell nice and loud for all the nice people watching right now.
Hey-o.
But we'll kick it off really quick with just a quick little roundup. A little roundup before we get into the Suzy Whaley interview in the world of football, both worlds of football, actually, American and English football or European football. Man, what a week. What a first week in the NFL. Some absolute shellackins. We had some beatdowns like the Eagles against the Falcons, 32-6. Guys like Jalen Hurts. What did we say on the NFL preview show? I purposely started off with this game because I said don't sleep on the Eagles in the NFC East. We had them at plus 500, dead last odds to win the NFC East, and I think they were the only team to win in the East because I believe the Giants lost, the Cowboys lost, and Washington lost. So first place in the NFC East right after the NFL preview show. Not saying you should have taken my advice and sprinkled a little something. Plus 500 in that division was ridiculous, but I digress. Tommy looking great for the Bucs. That game was actually very entertaining. That Bucs Cowboys game. Dallas. I mean, I know they lost by 2, but looks like they have a serviceable team. I mean, that Tampa Bay team is really tough. Mac Jones looked really good for the Pats. Steelers Bills was a weird one. Really weird game. Josh Allen did not look as dynamic as I thought he was going to look. Loved watching the Bengals. Watched my boy Joe Burrow come back. He looked absolutely electric in that game against the Vikings. So that was a lot of fun to see. Who else we got on the slate? The Niners literally blew the spread on that one on that last-minute run from Jared Goff. Cardinals looked awesome. 4 touchdowns from Kyler Murray. Absolutely exceptional. Who else? We have Seahawks with 4 touchdowns out of Russ Wilson. Russell, Mr. September himself. I would fade him in fantasy come October. Personal opinion. The same. How about Jameis? Can we talk about Jameis Winston for like one quick second? 5 touchdowns. Mitch, did you see? You don't have a mic. I was gonna say, did you see Drew Brees? We're actually gonna pivot from the Saints to Drew Brees and his like 19 different hairstyles he had early on. He can't be that excited that Jameis Winston steps up and throws 5 touchdowns in his first game, right? I mean, it's
just not looking great for his starting odds. You know what I mean?
I mean, everyone knew he was kind of at the tail end of his career, but a shell of what he once was.
You hate
but
to see a big name like that go to waste, though.
Right. But, I mean, Jameis, 5 touchdowns. I mean, it's crazy, man. Some of his rookie cards from 15 actually went soaring on Monday afterwards. Like, eBay got cleaned out. So that was actually a lot of fun to see the reactive market there. The Texans hanging 37 on the Jab. I mean, I know it's Jacksonville, but still the Browns hanging in there with the Chiefs. Basically, Mahomes had to chuck one up to Tyreek Hill for 75 yards to come back in that game to save themselves. The Browns, man, kind of feel for them. Definitely feel for them. They're a team that they got pieces, man. They're not a bad team. They're not a terrible team like they were. They're not no 0-16, 0-17 team anymore. But it's like they have like that last bit in the tank, that last like bit of Cleveland Browns juice still in the tank that they need to like exercise to just really close it. They need to learn how to close out a football game, against a championship contender, really. Then you had the Rams kicking the crap out of the Bears. You need to get Andy Dalton out of there, man. Absolutely need. Justin Fields needs to be starting for that team. And then the Monday Nighter, that thriller with Baltimore and Vegas, and that's the quick roundup. Just want to do a quick one there. Quick little note for my soccer people before we pivot over to golf and the Whaley interview. Erling Haaland and Jude Bellingham, we talked about them earlier on an earlier episode, doing some Champions League talk. Those kids, man, if you're not in on their rookie cards, you need to be. You absolutely need to be, along with some of the youngins from Barca in that rebuilding mode for them over at Camp Nou. I know they didn't look exceptionally good against Bayern this week, but definitely looking at guys like Pedri over there, even a guy like Memphis Depay. Definitely guys to watch on that end. With that being said, we just wanted to give that quick little, very, very quick little sports flash, if you will. We are going to pivot right on over to the Suzy Whaley interview. We touched on everything from her career and her life as a golfer. Touched a little on the Ryder Cup, some possible combinations, talked a little bit about the roster makeup for Team USA. Obviously, they have not been that successful in the Ryder Cup in recent years. Although we on paper, I mean, you look at the roster we're putting out there on paper with guys like Dustin Johnson, Bryson DeChambeau, Koepka, Justin Thomas, Patrick Cantley, Berger, English, Tony Finau, Xander Schauffele, Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth. Like, it's a really, really strong team. Colin Morikawa is another one on there. Like, there's so much talent on that team. Arbitrarily, like, speaking, like, that is on paper the more talented team. But the Europeans, man, they've had our number for the majority of years recently. So they will be building a team captained by Patty Harrington, Paul Casey, Tyler Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Lee Westwood, Sergio Garcia, Shane Lowry, and Ian Poulter. So some really good names, some really good ball strikers on there, some excellent putters on there. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. If you're a golf fan, this episode is absolutely for you. Again, we are about to sit down and cut over to our interview with former PGA president, LPGA pro, top 50 golf instructor in the world as voted by Golf Digest, and all-around incredible person, great athlete, great golfer, Suzy Whaley. So without any further ado, here's our exclusive sit-down with the former PGA president. Welcome, everybody. This is our exclusive interview with Suzy Whaley, a very special guest that we are super excited to have on the show today. Suzy, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to be on with you.
Excellent. So, Suzy, quick little background on yourself. You have an exceptional list of accomplishments in the golf world as a golfer and as a member of the golf community, as a professional, first female officer and president of the PGA, elected back in 2018, LPGA Tour member, three-time Connecticut Women's Open champion, top 50 instructor, as voted by Golf Digest. You're a commentator on ESPN. It's a laundry list of accomplishments. Super, super awesome. I cannot tell you how excited I was when you said you were willing to sit down and have a chat. So very excited to dive into things and kind of get your perspective on everything in the world of golf. Talk to us about sort of your early career. How did you get into the sport? What roped you in? What roped you in to be a golfer and beyond?
Yeah, well, I'm always happy to chat it up about golf. So
Yes.
happy to do that, and very rarely say no when I get the chance. But I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and where I grew up, golf was played about 3.5 months a year because it was so darn cold.
Right.
Maybe 4 months a year. But I was just avid athlete. I loved every sport possible. So if I could be outside, I was outside. And I just, I lucked out that my mom absolutely loved golf. And, I say it like that because oftentimes, being the age I am, it was the dad that played more golf than the mom. My mom played far more golf than my dad. She was looking for a pal. My sister was a huge swimmer. So my sister was busy at the pool swimming laps. And my mom found me at the driving range and was just thrilled that I enjoyed it and liked hitting golf balls. And from then on, I was her pal. I started at 9, and anytime I could be at the golf course, I was there. We called them then range rats, right? We just hung out in the golf shop and drove the golf pro crazy. And anytime I could get on the course, I wanted to. So for me, it was just this sport that I did. It wasn't something I was saying, oh, I'm going to play on tour one day like many of my peers did. For me, it was just great fun. I loved it, and got to be with my mom one-on-one. So that's really how I started.
Oh, and you love the fact that whenever you can latch onto a sport with a family member, particularly a parent, that's great. I mean, my father was similar, had me on ice skates playing, pee-wee hockey and little hockey. I was like 3 years old, couldn't have been older than that. So, and that was the best. Those are, even being so young, as I'm sure you can relate to, some of those memories just stick with you so vividly, kind of being with one of your parents, sharing, just kind of a special moment as far as like in the world of sports. I think that's great. So you started at 9, and you played throughout high school and college, correct?
I did. My mom was smart enough when she couldn't help me any longer. She was a really good teacher. She was a teacher as a profession. She was a professor at Syracuse University, and she tried to help me as best she can, and then realized that, I was probably going to pass her. And I was fortunate enough. She hooked me up with a gentleman named Joe Tesori, who was a PGA professional in Syracuse, New York. Amazing golf professional who I still talk to today, who became this idol for me, that took me out on the golf course and taught me to really play the game. And then I played all through high school. I played on a boys' high school golf team. There was no such thing as a girls' high school golf team, but at my house, there was no gender barrier. So if I wanted to play golf, I had to go try out, and didn't matter if there weren't any other girls. And I made the team. And again, those boys I'm still friends with today. They became my brothers. They egged me on. They made fun of me. They made me better. They, cheered for me. They stuck up for me when necessary. And so, yeah, I played all through high school. And then I was also a ski racer. So ski racing was really my first sport, the one I loved the most. And I had intended to ski in the Olympics like any, 10-year-old would dream about. Got hurt in high school and switched to being recruited for golf. Went on to play golf at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. But again, never considered it as a profession. I loved the game. I had fun playing the game. I was good at the game. I wasn't the best player on my college team. I was probably 3rd out of the top 5. 2 of my other teammates went on to play on the tour and win LPGA championships, including a major. But so certainly they had me in college. But for me, it was just great fun to be in a team of girls. I'd never played on a team other than other sports, soccer and other sports, obviously. But for golf, I'd always just play with boys. So that was pretty incredible. And then from there, was really going to go to law school. And then the world just turned a tide. When I graduated college, I qualified for an LPGA Tour event as an amateur. I played really well in that event. I got approached by a couple of sponsors to send me away to tour school, which is how you get your LPGA card. I went home and told my parents I was going to pass on law school and head off to tour school. And they were shocked, but great about it, and said, you can always go back to law school. And I never looked back. I got my tour card right out of the gate, and I can't even imagine not having this as my profession.
So would you say that moment when you get invited to, was it called Q school at the time? It was Q school.
Qualified school, same. It's actually, and even in this stage 2, my daughter's headed to stage 2, and that's where I played.
Excellent.
I mean, think about that. That's a long time. But yeah, it's still called qualifying school.
Excellent. Okay, I know there was the switch. I was trying to look at it because now it's Corn Ferry, but there's still there's still Q school though, right?
Yeah, everybody who's going to it calls it Q school.
Gotcha.
If
Okay.
you read about it in the press, it's called tour school.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So I think it's just a vernacular. I'm sure there's some
Right.
perfect way to say it. I have no idea which one's perfect.
Right.
All I
Right.
know is it's a nightmare. Think about your worst week of your entire life and realizing that if you don't get it, you got fired.
Oh,
That's exactly how tour school is, right? If you don't
oh.
make it, you're fired. So it's it's brutal, but if you get through it, it's fantastic.
So would you say prior to that moment, right, where you get to you're kind of at that crossroads where it's like law school, possible, golfing career, would you say was that the major moment where it started creeping into your head that hey, like this could be a long-term profession for me? Or did you kind of start having some inklings prior to that?
No, I was just an athlete. I
You
mean,
just
no,
wanted to compete.
no, I was super
Yeah.
young. I wanted to still compete. I got a taste of it by
Yeah.
playing an LPGA tour event. I loved playing in front of people. I loved
Oh
playing in
yeah.
front of crowds. It was a huge energy high for me. I knew that I wasn't to the caliber that I needed to be, but I felt like I could get there with more work. I can tell you that I didn't really put that much work in college, and I thought, well, gosh, if I really put more work in,
Right.
could I get good enough? And you're young, right? So yeah, my answer to myself was yeah. And so that's why I chose the route I chose. It wasn't because I thought, oh, I'm going to do this for the next 30 years and I'm going to have 15 different careers within the golf industry. And no, I never went
Yeah.
through any of that. It was all about, I'm an athlete. I'm going to go try to beat as many people as I can beat, and I'm going to go try to get my tour card. And thankfully, I was that naive because I wasn't good enough. And had I gone in thinking that, I probably would never have gotten it.
You know what though? You say that, but like sometimes it takes a good deal of naive thinking to be able
Mhm.
to, not psych yourself out or, reach some of those goals you need. It takes a little bit of crazy sometimes for anybody in any field to
That's
kind of
really
break
nice.
those
I
barriers,
would call it
you know?
cocky.
But but but
Or
but
a
what
little
good an athlete
humility,
isn't?
or I think I've learned, over I would call it my experience now
Yeah.
has taught me that that's probably what it was. Then I can call it naive now as an adult.
Yeah, yeah.
But then no, I just think I didn't see the barrier, and I credit my family with that. They just, if I wanted it, you got to go get it. You got to prepare as
Yep.
hard as you can. You got to work as hard as you can. You got to be as confident as you can, and put in the work, and you could reach that. So that's what I was thinking.
Oh, that's awesome. It's so awesome hearing you talk about feeling that energy of playing in front of people and that sort of adrenaline. It's like, if I go play golf with, you know, five, six, seven guys where we got to break up into like a foursome and a threesome and one catches up to us or we catch up to one and we kind of meet on the tee box at a hole. It's
Yeah.
all the boys are watching or everyone's
Oh
watching.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're swinging for the fences. This might be a 3-wood shot, a 3-wood tee
Oh
shot.
yeah.
You're breaking out the big stick at that point. If
Oh yeah.
everyone's watching, so I can only
Or you
imagine.
may hit it off the toe and hit it dead right, right?
Yeah, it depends on what hole, how many beers we're in that day. That's
Yeah,
semantics.
there you go. Yeah. But I
But
mean,
yeah,
I
no,
think
I
that's what
can.
makes the game awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so frustratingly awesome, but we just keep going back to the well for it. None of us are particularly exceptional, but we have our days. We have our days for sure.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
I'm
only
right there with you.
imagine
I mean,
how.
I've had a lot less exceptional days lately. So work. I have a tournament, in fact, tomorrow. So I'm trying to get hyped up for that.
Oh, awesome. Well, speaking of tournaments, wanted to touch one of the really interesting things. In 2003, when you qualified for the Greater Hartford Open, and then they ended up having to make the Whaley Rule after you because everyone was too concerned about this lady coming on, kicking some
Oh yeah.
ass, taking names on the tour. They had to make a whole rule to prevent that because you're kicking too much ass, Suzy. I
Oh,
mean,
right. I'm proud to have a rule named after me. Not many
hell
people
yeah,
can actually
absolutely,
say that, right? Only a
absolutely.
few of us can say that. Yeah, I qualified. So our in 2002, I was a PGA member of the
Yep.
Connecticut section PGA, And our year-end tournament is the easiest way to describe it, kind of our final, right? Our biggest tournament of the year is called the section championship. And that section championship is for local club professionals and for your audience, that those are really people who work within the industry, whether they work for a manufacturer or a club, who come together and play against each other. And it's pretty high level because many of those people have played on the tour formerly, whether it be the PGA or the LPGA. And I entered. I had come off a really good playing summer. I had won the LPGA teaching national championship that summer, and entered this particular event, not to earn an exemption, because I never imagined they'd allow a female to play, but I just wanted to win a golf tournament. And so I did that, and I ended up winning this particular event. And again, my mom was my caddy at the time, and we finished the event, and super cool. And, we're high-fiving and signing the card and super excited. And I get a phone call, and I always tell people this, we didn't have cell phones then. Like, people are like, what do you mean? I don't know. It was like a phone that you drag out of a golf shop with a really long cord. And it was somebody from the PGA Tour asking me if I was going to accept the exemption. And I said something incredibly stupid, like, can I think about it? And there was this lengthy pause on the phone, and he said, okay. And that was really the end of it. I had kindergarten orientation that night for my daughter. We had 2 daughters at the time. And I didn't want to be late for that. I didn't want to be a bad mom. I didn't want the kindergarten teacher to think I was a bad mom. And off I went to that. I came home. My husband and I celebrated with a glass of wine, and that was it, right? We had a great new trophy and a nice check, and that we were done. And then the next day, the whole world turned upside down. We did over, over 600 interviews were requested that day from around the world. I ultimately ended up doing over 3,000. People were just enamored by this thought of this woman who wasn't currently playing on the LPGA tour, playing against the best men in the world. And at the time, I had a full-time job. I was a head golf professional at a public golf course in Avon, Connecticut. My husband had a full-time job. We were just like every other family. We're a dual working household with 2 kids, trying to manage 100-hour work weeks. And the world wanted me, or not wanted me, depending on where you sat on the subject, to tee it up and compete against people who played every day, all day. And just happened to be men. So for me, it took me about 3 months to decide to play for multiple reasons, many of which I just stated. But it ultimately was my oldest daughter, at the time she was 8, who made the decision for me. We were reading a book about being brave and taking chances and getting prepared and not being afraid of opportunities and taking opportunities when they come. And we always read a book at night, and she turned to me and she said, well, then mommy, why aren't you playing? And I said, well, you know what? I am going to play. And I walked downstairs, and that was the night I decided we were in. And ultimately, the tournament wasn't until 2003. So, I had so many people helping me. My boss at work allowed me time to practice and play. My staff took over some of my responsibilities. I had friends taking my children to doctor's appointments and school functions. And I was working out 3 hours a day at 4 a.m. And I did everything possible to prepare for that and to get ready for it. But, I say to this day, thank God there wasn't social media. Because, you can only imagine what Twitter would have looked like with the Whaley Rule, right? It would have been blown up, and holy cow. So if there's one thing I'm glad for, there was not Twitter in 2003. That's for sure. But it ended up being an amazing week.
Oh, I'm sure. And what a crazy sort of coming full circle where, you had your mom, sort of cultivated you, took her daughter and taught her the game and sort of cultivated the game within you. And then this, major point in your career, like that really brought you, this big burst, kind of burst you on the scene a bit, was triggered by your daughter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
your
it was.
daughter, like wild how, just how the universe works sometimes, like
I know.
which is awesome.
Yeah. And they were just talking about it last week, because we were looking through some old photo albums. And, both my daughters play golf, and both played golf in college for Division I schools. But, they weren't old enough to really remember it all. They remember some of it from pictures. My oldest remembers a little bit of it. And they were looking through some footage. And just last night, so weird we're talking about this, because just last night, my youngest, who's now 24 and plays on the Symetra Tour, the mini tour, and she goes, Mom, do you know there's a video on YouTube about the GHO when you played? And I burst out laughing and said, I had no idea there was a video on YouTube. And she goes, no, we actually watched it. It was cool, Mom. So, they're at an age now that they can look back on it and be proud of it alongside me, which is neat.
So let me ask you, well, first of all, one really quick one before I get to, I do have a question about, after qualifying for the tournament, it wasn't the Travelers at the time, right? It was still the Greater.
It wasn't. It was the Greater Hartford Open. Yes.
Gotcha. So, but real quick, just while you're talking about, I know you said, your daughters play at a very high level, at Division I level. When you play with them, do you kind of like reel in, not trying to coach them, not giving them pointers on the course?
No, I totally do that.
Nice.
But there was a time where we didn't do that because we just wanted to be parents, right? My husband's a PGA professional too, and there comes a point in time where you can't do it all. You either are supportive and you're a parent, and you watch them fail, you watch them succeed, and you're just there to support them either way. And that's really how we approached it once they were in high school. Yeah. And and now once they hit college and they would ask us for help, we certainly were always there for them if they asked. And then there's moments in time now that we'll caddy for my youngest who's playing professionally. And when we're out there with her and she needs help with her game, for sure, we're going to help her. But we also have her working with a golf professional named John Webster here in Palm Beach, just so that it stays parental, right? I think for maybe some parents that works where you're constantly their coach and their parent. Mm-hmm. I just made a conscious decision that it was, I needed to be your mom. This game is really hard, and there's days it just stinks, and there's days it's so amazing and the highs are so great, and you really just need somebody to say, hey, you want to go grab something to eat, right? You want to go grab dinner. Hey, I really enjoyed watching you play. I tell the parents of all my juniors who play tournament golf is, there's a couple things don't say what happened. Right? The only thing that you can answer that with is something negative, like what do you think happened? I 3-putted the last 4 holes, right? So, don't like ask that. Just say, hey, I love to be with you and I love to watch you play, and hop in the car. And I promise you the conversation will organically come to where you want it to be, where you can talk about a bad hole or talk about a strategy that you thought was completely insane that they did. And you could try to help them through it. But if you try to do that right out of the gate and up front, it just gets contentious, and then it's no longer fun. And I want my kids to love the game for a very long time. And I want them to know that they can't disappoint us unless it's with attitude or, disrespect. I've shot a gazillion on tour, and I've shot really low on tour. So I think the only thing my husband and I feel badly about is, we never let them top us, right? So if my daughter has a really bad hole and, she says, oh my God, I made a 9 and she's a professional golfer, my husband and I always have a story to one up her. We're like, oh, give me a break. I made an 11 in Boston in the first hole of the Friendlies Classic. She's seriously, you can't even let me have my 9? And then you can laugh about it. But, we get it. We both played professionally. And I think it's more fun to be your mom.
Yeah, that's awesome. It definitely, I'm sure there's, when you are giving those pointers, being able to dial back and switch from, Coach Suzy Whaley to mom, that's got to be tough on you too. You know what I mean? Because it is. It's like you said. I mean, I'm sure you want your daughter to enjoy the game, love the sport as you have. But I'm sure it's probably difficult sometimes. You want them to succeed so bad. I'm sure that you want to give them all the information possible. But yeah, that's incredible. I'm sure there's not too many families out there with that kind of dynamic. So that's really really.
Yeah, you gotta figure it out. I mean, nobody wants to 3-putt. Right.
Oh, God,
so I always tell these parents, like, when you act aggravated because your child 3-putted, like they didn't mean it. They weren't like, oh, let me miss this so I can really tip my parents off, right? It's like, I mean, they're doing the best they can out there, and sometimes they just make really dumb mistakes, and you just got to realize that it'll actually make them a little bit better when you let them make some of those mistakes, because they'll go work harder.
So let me ask you this, going back to the Greater Hartford. So take me to, you decide you're going to play in the tournament. You're training, you're doing all these things, preparing for the tournament. You get there. what's that vibe like? Because now you've now broken a glass ceiling for women, not even women golf, for women athletes. You know, you're playing in a tournament with all men. So this is a big moment for the sport and for female athletes in general. So what's the
it's a big deal.
Yes.
You know, it became very clear once I qualified that I was representing women's golf, right?
Yes.
I wasn't representing the LPGA. I qualified because of the PGA of America, not the LPGA. But it became very clear to me that that was really on my shoulders, and there were women out there who really were hopeful because I was just playing, which was great, and there were other women who really wanted me to compete and play well. I certainly went into it wanting to compete. I wanted to play the best I possibly could. Listen, I understood that, you know, it would be disrespectful for me to say, as a full-time working head golf professional, from, you know, 700 more yards than I was used to playing, that I was going to win that golf tournament or try to compete against the likes of Tiger Woods. Now, he wasn't there, so that's a bad example, but you know, for the field that was there. And I never stated that because I understood that clearly. But I also believe that the reasons I played, which was to show my daughters and other girls everywhere that they belonged on golf courses, that they could play on golf courses, that I was taking a risk and being brave, that I was taking opportunity that I was afforded, and I wasn't afraid to step out of my comfort zone. I wanted to inspire women to do that, to realize that you can prepare and you can surround yourself with support systems that can allow you to succeed. And that was critical to me in that journey. And so for me, the players were paying attention, and they understood my objectives. They understood why I was there. And most, if not all of them, were incredibly gracious to me. You know, for me to step into their arena and be a part of that week while they were trying to win, you know, for their living, is something that I'm grateful that they accepted me to do. So, you know, the first couple of people I ran into were Paul Azinger at the front door and wishing me a great week. David Duvall introduced himself like I didn't know who he was, right? And you gotta remember, David Duvall right before then was #1 in the world. So of course I knew who he was, but he was dead serious, like I didn't know who he was, which I thought was really very sweet. Peter Jacobson and I were friends. I actually was represented by his agency at the time, even prior to qualifying. And what was really ironic is Peter had helped me the entire 9 months I was preparing, had taught me some new shots for really quick greens and around the greens, had kind of walked me through where pins would be, played a practice round with me. And then ironically, or if not ironically, maybe karma, Peter Jacobson won the tournament that week. And so it was this incredible for me, because he went out of his way to help me succeed at that event. And then he won it. And it was very cool.
So you could even stake a claim that, you know, you and all your practice, maybe you helped him win it.
Maybe we could. I never thought of it that way.
I mean, there's a.
I'm going to give him a shout and say, hey, by the way, I was on this podcast and I just realized I deserve some credit here.
Yeah. So you're welcome, Peter, when you watch this.
Yes, exactly. But I have this cool flag from the Greater Hartford Open that, you know, I cherish because it has my signature on it and Peter's.
Oh, that's awesome. And what a great, you know, to have the flag, what a great token of, you know, that moment for you. You know, not only is it, you know, Peter helped you, like you said, helped you prepare for it, but obviously the eventual winner, and then obviously you in that landmark event. That's awesome. That's
yeah. So I don't have a lot of stuff hanging in my house, but that's something I really have up.
Oh, of course. Yeah. No, that is awesome. Precisely the kind of insight I was hoping we were gonna get. It's, you know, it really was when I was, you know, kind of like doing my research on you and getting a little background, and I read, obviously I knew about the Whaley Rule from, I was younger at the time, but do remember it. I remember the talk of it and whatnot. So that was something I was like, oh, there's got to be a good story.
Yeah. So the Whaley Rule, just so people understand what it is, when I qualified, I was playing from 90% of the tee boxes, and it was written everywhere that I had played the forward tees, which was inaccurate. I had played from just 90% of where they were, which is a typical, let's say, 6,400 yard golf course. So I played from about 6,400 yards. to qualify. The Whaley Rule now says that the only way you can earn an exemption into a PGA Tour event that's afforded to a section championship or a section event is if you play the same tees as the men. Now, in the actual event, in the actual Greater Hartford Open, I played the same tees as the men. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, regardless, either way, I mean, super, super historic and great accomplishment on your end. It's just great. It's awesome to kind of get your perspective on that because I'm sure a lot of people, never really, realize your side of it, to kind of leading up to the event and, sort of that whirlwind of emotions, like, qualifying.
It was crazy.
You're thinking about your daughter's kindergarten, first day of kindergarten initiation and whatnot. So,
Oh yeah.
oh, that is awesome. Yeah, let's pivot a little bit here to your role at the PGA. So, going forward in 2018, you were elected the first female president of PGA, correct?
That's correct.
So okay. So first of all, incredible. Another glass ceiling broken by you, just wild. Secondly, so can you talk to us a little bit about some of the responsibilities that the PGA president oversees, and what are some things that the casual golf fan, someone who just kind of flicks on a major once a year, who's enjoys the sport, enjoys watching the sport, what's something you can kind of enlighten those fans on that they may not know about the tour, like the workings of the tour?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, we're always confused. So the PGA of America is the industry side of the business. For those of us that work within the industry, it could be in media, it could be for manufacturers, let's say like PXG, it could be or Nike, it could be in the club side of the business. You could be a director of golf, you could be a general manager, you could even be an instructor, and be a PGA professional. So that side of the business is not the PGA Tour. The PGA of America is a separate entity. It's the largest sports association in the world. And that's what I was secretary for 2 years, vice president for 2 years, and president for 2 years. I'm currently in 2 years of being the honorary president in my first term for that. Gotcha. The PGA Tour is what people see each and every week on television. Jay Monahan is the commissioner of that. However, what gets confusing is the PGA of America, which I recently was the president of, and now I'm the honorary president of. We own and operate major championships. So we own and operate the PGA Championship. We partner on the KPMG Women's PGA Championship with KPMG and the LPGA. We partner with KitchenAid on the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship. And then we own and operate the Ryder Cup alongside Ryder Cup Europe. So Ryder Cup's coming up now, but because we run major championships that are some of the greatest championships in the world, we get confused with the PGA Tour because we have PGA Tour players playing obviously in the PGA Championship and in the Ryder Cup, as well as the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship. And then we have LPGA players playing in the KPMG Women's PGA Championship. So that's a distinct difference between two associations. Our association is all about employment and education, helping our members be successful in their industries. We do a lot of advocacy work in Washington. We're about growing the game. Our mission is to serve our members and to grow the game, which is to get more people on golf courses, more golf clubs in people's hands, no matter where they're from or who they are. And so for us that are in that side of the business, it's an incredible passion, but we're also really good players. We have to go through an 800-hour education platform to become a member. And then you can certainly advance your career within the PGA to becoming a specialized certified or master professional, which is the highest level. Master professional is the highest level of education. So what I do is, or what I did as an officer of the PGA of America is, as president, you're the chair of the board. Which is a board of directors that really is responsible for the strategy of the organization. We have a CEO and a C-suite staff, and then we have about 330 employees that now currently are in Frisco, Texas, and in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and in New York City. So we have 3 separate offices. COVID, obviously, people are not working from those places at the moment. But during my presidency, when you asked what my responsibilities were, they're a little different because of COVID. than your typical responsibilities as president, as we try to navigate for our members their well-being. So when COVID first hit, golf courses closed instantaneously. The golf business shut down. We're an $84 billion industry, and it shut down. So our first and foremost needs were for our members and the human side of our business. So we started a golf emergency relief fund immediately and diverted funds to that to help those that work within the industry. And then, of course, we wanted to get golf courses back open. We felt very, very clearly that golf could be a socially responsible sport during a pandemic, and we needed to convince government officials of that. So alongside the other allied associations, we literally were on phones daily. We were in Washington. We were doing everything we possibly could, not only to get our members back to work, but to get golf courses back open. And we were able to do that with, it was an incredible task because state to state, county to county, locality to locality was different. And we worked tirelessly to make sure we could do that. Now, recently, unfortunately, due to the surge, we've had a couple new cities and parts of Hawaii in particular that have shut down that we're still working very hard to get reopened. But I would tell you that, something that I think we're all really proud of that worked together as a team at the PGA of America is we were able to get golf back on its feet, and it's never been stronger, and it's in an unbelievable place right now.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So I literally had a little section about, trying to get your thoughts on golf during the pandemic, and you just thundered through all those points, which is awesome. Because that was one thing, obviously, being in the leadership position, you are with PGA America, obviously something like the COVID pandemic, derailed pretty much everything, but particularly like looking from in the world of sports. I mean, every professional sport, every professional, sports association was, completely blindsided by this.
We were able to, I think the other thing is the PGA Championship that we hosted in 2020 at Harding Park. It was the first major sporting event since the Super Bowl that was going to be televised.
Right.
So it was an incredible responsibility for our team to not only protect the players and obviously those that could join them at the event, but the city. And Governor Newsom in California is incredibly strict. So we had to navigate that alongside of making sure that we were showing the world that golf could be responsible, and the world was watching. And it was this incredible event, albeit extremely different than what any of us were used to, with 0 fans and masks and protocols. But we had this amazing champion in Colin Morikawa. We had an unbelievable viewership and an unbelievable event that really, I can say sincerely showcased to the world that you could play golf with other people so long as it was responsible and enjoy it. And that was what our message was meant to be and intended to be, and we did it. And but leading up to it, week in, week out, it was really a challenge.
Yeah, Colin, one of the stars of the U.S. Ryder Cup team, coming up in a couple of weeks too, man. He's
so excited.
He's a lot of fun to watch. So
he is a lot of fun to watch. I'm excited to see what Captain Stricker, where he puts him and how he uses them. And Whistling Straits is going to be an unbelievable test.
What was while we're on the Ryder Cup, I do want to ask one more question about the pandemic while we're on the Ryder Cup. So like a couple days ago, actually, okay, we'll pivot to the Ryder Cup because there's a couple things I actually wanted to ask about.
Okay.
So there was kind of like, talking about Twitter, there's a lot of Twitter ramblings about Patrick Reed not getting the nod onto the team. Can you, I don't want to go anywhere that you don't want to speak on other players or anything like that. I don't know what the rules are with this. You being as high up as you are, but do you have any thoughts on that, on Steve not giving Patrick the nod? I mean, Pat's a notorious really, really good in these types of tournaments. So
no, and I what I read, because I haven't talked to Captain Stricker, so I can't give you insight from his perspective other than what I read. And he said that. he said, he's an incredible player in the Ryder Cup, and that it was really hard to not choose him. But then gave some reasons for his other picks. So I can't give you any inside access insight. I'm sorry. These choices are strictly up to Captain Stricker and his assistants. The PGA of America officials do not get involved in those choices. And, we're just proud to have the people he picked that are on the team ready to go. And I guarantee you they're going to be ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it is nice that you say that, the captain of the team is going to have that autonomy to be able to put the roster together like they would want. So that is actually really, really refreshing to hear. I got to ask, just because I know a lot of the people who follow us would be remiss if I don't. I would be remiss if I didn't. But Bryson and Brooks.
Yes.
they're gonna coexist okay on that team together. They're gonna kind of pull it together, not do any.
All I can tell you is, from past Ryder Cups that I've been to, in a position where I've had the opportunity to kind of have a bird's eye view of the team. And I don't mean to say that, I played golf with them or anything like that. I just mean at the Ryder Cup. There's a certain, and I can't speak for any of them. I can only tell you what I see from the outside looking in, because I've obviously never played on a Solheim Cup team. But if you can only think about putting yourself in the place of performing for your country and being on a team that's doing that and showcasing that to the world, that becomes far greater and far bigger than any drama.
Yeah.
And, so in my heart, I think every single player that is on our Ryder Cup team is all about bringing that cup to the USA. And, that's where, in my opinion, Captain Stricker will make sure it's left.
Right. It's just funny watching, like obviously there's the Koepka video of Bryson walking behind him doing the eye roll and all that stuff. And it
actually made me laugh. I actually thought it was funny.
See,
right?
I feel like the past, honestly, since the restart, I maybe even a little before COVID, going back to, Tiger winning the Masters in 19, I feel like from there on, there's been a real kind of resurgence in the casual golfer really getting into a lot of the personal story, really becoming personally attached to individual golfers on tour, similar to like two other big professional sports. I think it's awesome. And honestly, I kind of think it's awesome for the tour, for the popularity, that there's a little bit of beef there. You know what I mean? Like for the sake of the US, I'm sure they'll put whatever little personal things they have aside with each other. But I think it's kind of great. A little friendly competitive edge amongst each other. I mean, that makes for really good entertainment, I feel.
Yeah, and I think Patrick Cantley, kind of summed it up best after he beat Bryson in the playoff, right? It's I think there's a point for us that are traditionalists in the game that, I get it if you're going to a WWE match. I get it, if you're going to, right? I mean, there's a certain kind of, decorum that you want to have, and that's been the tradition of golf.
Of course.
And I think that's being pushed, right? I think it's being pushed in ways that many traditionalists in the game don't like, and that a lot of fans are enjoying. So there's a little dichotomy there. And I think, the commissioner came out and, is trying to stabilize, fans' vocal reactions. And I don't know that that's possible. Right. But at the end of the day, that's what he set in place. And certainly, our fan behavior at the Ryder Cup is important to us. And, we're looking to have a really strong, spirited competition. That's what the Ryder Cup is all about.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also about sportsmanship. It's also about, there's only going to be one winner. And there's always going to be a team that loses. And you just hope the fans can appreciate that, right? And that, knowing full well that many of the Euros aren't going to be able to travel over here because of COVID, or because of their choices not to come. I would believe that it's going to be more American fans on the ground than possibly there were at Hazeltine or Medina. And so, most golf fans, I would tell you, are incredibly respectful. And, I believe that we'll cheer heartily for great shots
Yeah.
and respect great shots no matter who's hit them. I'm here to tell you, though, I will have a lot of red, white, and blue going. I will have a lot of stickers going on on my face. It'll be very clear who I'm looking to win. But as a golf fan, I'm always going to cheer for incredible golf, and it doesn't matter what color they have on for that.
There's some really, really good names in the tournament, even on the Euro side. I mean, they got John Rahm, got the tap for it, Patty Harrington captaining the team. I mean, there's
Ian
some
Poulter got on the team too.
Yeah,
I don't know
Ian
if you
Poulter,
saw that
yes.
pick, and that'll get the crowd going.
Tommy's on there.
Tommy Fleetwood,
Yeah, he's so
Sergio's on there.
it's really, really, like, it's all guys who have made a really, really big mark on the tour. I mean, obviously Rahm was one in the world for quite a bit, right?
It's all guys that want to kick our guys,
Yeah.
That's
So
what I'm here to tell you. There's not one person on that Euro team that's coming over here to lose.
Right.
No chance.
Of course.
No
Oh God, of course. Well, they've won. Was it like 9 out of the last 11 or something? Like, they've dominated.
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just for the sake of transparency, just for those who may not. But it'll make the U.S. victory all the sweeter, we hope.
Correct.
Sure. But,
correct.
yes, that's the 24th, right? Is it 24th through the 26th?
Yes, so that's correct. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, matches kick off on Friday, opening ceremonies on Thursday. Is one of my favorite weeks of the year. So
awesome.
I'm so happy that we're staging it. We were supposed to have it in 2020, as everybody knows, and just thrilled to have the opportunity to stage it in 2021.
It'll be good. I feel like, given the star power on both sides, I think it'll be very, very well watched. I know I'll be kicking back watching it for sure. It's my brother's birthday weekend, but he's becoming a big golfer as well. Even he's been talking about it. He produces the show. He's even been talking about it too, about seeing how some of the matches play out. So I think there's a lot of buzz about it, and I really do think the last few tournaments, with guys like Morikawa who have come up, some of these younger guns who are just striking the ball so well. Even Matthew Wolff, another one who kind of like that unorthodox swing a little bit. There's so many really exciting guys to watch right now.
Oh yeah, the young players are unbelievable, and with no fear. And I mean, you look at a Patrick Cantley, who, I mean, he gained 15 strokes putting and strokes gained at that championship. I like, as a coach, as a teacher, it's like incredulous. How's that even happen, right? And then of course I went out and tried to practice my putting. So it gives you that impetus. I just came home from the Solheim Cup matches. Those were incredible. That level of play on Inverness, that golf course was so hard, and golf is just in a really great place. And we just need, I'm excited for people. I'm one that advocates like sitting home and making sure you're wearing red, white, and blue when we're playing, just like you would any football match, soccer match. Get your jerseys out, get your jerseys on. And I think it's really going to come down to pairings. It's really going to come down to who Captain Stricker and the assistant coaches. We play in a pod system. They'll do the same thing this year in their practice rounds. They'll try to determine who statistically plays best with each other. We use a lot of analytics now to try to figure that out. But you really never know who they're going to get paired against. And so there's always that level of, you think who one captain's going to put up first and one captain's going to put up second, but you really don't. You can try to surmise all that, but that's the fun in it. And, he's picked great assistants, and that will certainly help him immensely, especially with experience. Odds stacked are good, but I never try to predict an outcome. I'll just share with you what colors I'm wearing.
What would you say as as a golf professional, as a teaching professional, right? When you watch a tournament like the Ryder Cup versus something like, we'll take the PGA Championship, which is an individual tournament. What are some of the road bumps along the way that you may see players need to overcome in something like the Ryder Cup, and more of a team-based atmosphere versus those individual individual aspects in something like the PGA Championship they have to overcome? What are some of some of the uncharted territory that you may have to overcome as a player in that team-based format, you think?
I think it's relatable, right, to anybody that's a golfer that's listening, right? If you play in a individual tournament at your club versus you play in the member, right? I realize it's at a different level, but it's the same thing, right? Individual, it's all on you. Your choices are all yours. Your screw ups are all yours. Those nerves on the first tee belong to you. You have to learn how to manage them and try to navigate it, good days and bad. In a team format, you have somebody that can bail you out, right? You have a partner. But then in the Ryder Cup, you have foursomes, which is just a disastrous format, in my opinion, if somebody isn't playing well, because it's every other shot.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I think what's so critical for these players is, and I don't know about, I can't speak for any of them, but when I play foursomes or four ball, I always feel a little more pressure than when I'm by myself, because I don't want to let my partner down. I don't want to disappoint my partner. And I can imagine that there's moments in time where a miss is aggravating, but even more aggravating when you've missed for two people instead of just yourself. So I think some of the challenges are just making sure you get over that really quickly. There's no I'm sorry's. There's just, look, you missed. Let's go. Let's win the next hole. I think strategy is critically important. Who's going to tee off first in foursomes? What holes you want to tee from? What you're navigating as far as score is concerned. So there's a ton of analytics that goes into it now, and strategy probably always has been, but now you use real data that you have historically from past Ryder Cups. And then you have to think about the Euro side. And so Whistling Straits makes it a little, I think, even more challenging because Whistling Straits, if you look at data, long hitters have always been the most successful at Whistling Straits. So you would think that Captain Stricker will put his long hitter with maybe a shorter hitter, somebody who maybe is more precise with their wedges and putter, like Jordan, for example. And I don't mean to say Jordan's a short hitter, because he certainly is not, but you're going to put him with somebody long. I mean, certainly he'll probably go out with JT just from past. And maybe not, maybe that they won't pair him like that after the performance in France. But we'll have to wait to see what Captain Stricker does. But then you think about like maybe a Tony Finau with a Colin Morikawa, which could be a really interesting pairing, because Tony has, great length and Colin just has unbelievable irons. So, I think you just have to think about the golf course. I think you have to think, Whistling Straits is a little links style golf course. You got to think about who your best putters are and who they would be best apt to play with. Obviously, your best iron players are the people you want your best putters with. Because the proximity of the hole matters, right? If your strokes gained from 15 feet and you're number one on that Ryder Cup team, you want to be with the person that hits at 15 feet. Of course. So, there's a lot more that goes into it other than personalities, which is, what I was trying to allude to when we were talking about Brooks and Bryson. They're there to win. And, if that team statistically is what needs to go out, then you have to think about, okay, is this personality match going to work? Or is this not going to work? And you've seen in the past Ryder Cups, every different strategy under the sun. And oftentimes pairings where they're great buddies is amazing. And sometimes when they're not great buddies, it's horrible, and vice versa. So it's just, I don't want to call it a crapshoot, because it's not. It's very, very strategically done. And then after, the first couple of days, you've got to reassess. At first couple of games, I'm sorry, because who knows? Maybe somebody's not playing well and asks you to sit. Maybe somebody wants to get in that's not in, and Captain Stricker says, we won all 4 points this morning. You're not going in. Right. So I think that's what makes it really cool. It's like fantasy football, but for fantasy golf. And if you're somebody sitting at home, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be trying to figure out, who is he going to put together? How does that look for foursomes? Who's he going to put together for four ball? Get 12 of your friends, throw in some money and see who nails it, because that's the kind of the fun of the Ryder Cup.
Oh, believe me, I have my DraftKings app ready to go for
Perfect.
that. With a fresh deposit ready to go in there.
Perfect.
Put all my little wagers in on that end.
There you go. Well, I gave you a couple maybe that you can think about.
So it's so funny that you obviously mentioned Bryson. I mean, everyone knows he's long off the tee on the tour and whatnot. And when reading up on Whistling Straits, exactly what you said, long ball hitters tend to see a little more of an advantage there. So, and you've literally taken all my, because in my head, I'm like, wow, Bryson would pair really good with Jordan has been playing really well from inside. Like seeing those two together would be so awesome to see. I was even thinking Morikawa with like someone like DJ. I think would be really, really fun to see because Morikawa is so pure with his iron game, like you said. So yeah, it's really interesting to hear your perspective on sort of the strategic end of things, because I think that's something that I don't think a lot of golf fans realize, the depth of strategy that
Right.
Captain Stricker really needs to go through. Looking at, there's so much data these days with advanced metrics and analytics across
Correct.
every sport, and I mean golf. It literally every shot, every moment is documented onto your scorecard, so you can
Yeah.
really, really dial in to really finite points of people's games. Everything from the greens and regs, fairways and regs, things like that. Things you can't really quantify on a basketball court, on a football field. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm really, really curious to see what once the pairings come out, and wanted to see how that whole thing plays out. But
Yeah, I think we'll probably go to. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but because of the style golf course that Whistling Straits is out in Kohler, I'd also be looking at European performance, right?
Mm.
I'd be looking at the Open Championship. Now the Open Championship was unusual this year because there was very little wind. And the weather forecast at Whistling Straits this week is very little wind and much higher temps than normal. So will that links become a factor? Because normally Whistling Straits can be brutally windy on the lakeside, and that will probably help the Americans. If it's not to say the Americans aren't good in the wind, but the Europeans are amazing in the wind. So I'm happy to see 75 and sunny.
and tempered.
Wednesday, I think
Yeah.
it's supposed to rain, which is great, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because then it's going to play a little differently than it normally would. So you're going to probably read stuff about why would the Americans go to Whistling Straits when it favors the Europeans, and I don't necessarily agree. But it will be based on weather, and it will be based on wind, in my opinion.
Excellent. Oh, excellent insight. Exactly what we were hoping for here on the Ryder Cup end of things. Well, one last thing, Suzy. We're kind of pushing up against our episode limit here, but one last thing as we wrap up. As as one of the top teaching professionals, in America and the world, what advice, if you could give one nugget of advice to an amateur golfer or even just a recreational golfer, just one little tidbit, what would that be?
Yeah, I would say learn what you should look like at impact, and then repeat.
Notice how I'm taking these notes.
And repeat and repeat. I think if I only get to give one, you have to think about what is striking the golf ball, the club head.
Yep.
Right. And what am I supposed to look like at that point of impact? Are your hands ahead? Is the shaft ahead? Is my body turned? Is my weight left? Or if you're a right-hander, or vice versa, if you're a left-hander. If you can learn what what your objective is, which is the strike, and how to look in that point and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, you will start to play better golf. And that's just about having the club face square to your target line. And ensuring that club is coming in as it's designed or intended to perform, right? What happens to all of us is we try to lift the golf ball, we try to change the dynamics of the club, we try to swing really hard, and that changes your plane and your path. Everybody's posture. The reason why I don't say basics anymore is my one thing, and I'm a huge basics instructor. Please go to your PGA professional near you and learn basics for your body style, because none of us look the same.
Right.
So for me to tell you, oh, well, you need to be bent over here, and nobody's the same. So you want to make sure that you're in the best position possible for how you are built. And that is going to take so many eyeballs on you. And, after that, you just Google it. You can learn impact Impact is just impact. You can't mess with it. It is just a rule. And it looks the same for almost every single tour player that you would stop at impact. Now, their bodies may not look the same, right? The way they got to impact may not look the same, but I promise you that shaft and that club head looks the same. So take a peek at that, and I think you'll play better golf.
Excellent. That will probably be the most rewound portion of this entire interview amongst my 20 and 25 handicap friends. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But
No, there's anything wrong with that. Just keep in mind, like, some people are athletic, some people aren't. This game is built for everybody. You just got to figure out what best positions you have, and then go. Just go play.
Absolutely. Well, Suzy, appreciate all the time you gave us, all the insight.
You bet.
Absolutely awesome conversation. Can't thank you enough. How fun that was, just kind of getting your insight, exchanging stories, exchanging all the stuff going back to your life and career throughout.
Good luck with your DraftKings.
Oh, I know. Thank you so much. You might get an email beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Seeing get a little inside information, what's going on the course.
No chiming in, from me.
Any of the guys
we have to stay neutral in our world, but I think it'd be great fun for those people who haven't even ever played to be able to watch the Ryder Cup and really learn how it works. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
All right. Well, Suzy, thank you again. Absolutely awesome conversation. And thank you so much for the time. It was a pleasure having you.
My pleasure. It was great talking to you.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed our sit down with Suzy Whaley. Big thank you again goes out to Suzy for taking the time to sit with us here, talk a little bit about her life and career as a golfer, give a little insight into the world of golf and the inner workings up at the PGA of America level. That's going to do it. That's going to do it for episode 11 for us. Again, hope you all enjoyed. We will see you guys next Thursday for another episode of Two Way Takes.